It is 8:37 on Thursday, April 9th, and a quorum is present. The Minnesota Senate Finance Committee is now come to order. Today we're going to hear just two small bills, Senator Quade's SF 3969 and my Senate File 3625, and then we're going to have a presentation and testimony on the governor's education finance proposal. So first, let's begin with Senate File 3969, Senator Maye Quade. And Senator, would you like to move SF 3969 before the committee?
Yes, Madam Chair, and if I could, I would also like to move the A12 amendment as well.
Okay, members, any questions? Have you looked at do you want to explain a little bit what it is?
Sure.
Okay.
Madam Chair and members, the A12 amendment reflects ongoing work between myself, the advocates you see next to me today, and advocates not here, just to make sure that we have a really clear definition of grooming, one that identifies a very clear line of conduct that if seen is very clear that it would be prohibited, and then clarifies on page 8, line 10 and 14, what conduct is prohibited under positions of authority.
Excellent. Members, all in favor of adopting, excuse me, Senator Kroon, question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The whole bill is about grooming, and now you're changing the definition of grooming in the Education Finance Committee. Probably should be changed in the Judiciary Committee, but we've already heard the bill there. And I've just kind of had a chance this morning to look at the new definition, and I think it's better. When we talked about this in Judiciary Committee, I was asking how you build up a case based on the definition, and I didn't really get a good answer. It was just kind of like totality of the circumstances, and I think while this probably should have happened in Judiciary, I think it's an improvement to the definition, so I'll support it.
Thank you, Senator. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor of the A12 amendment say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the amendment is adopted. And Senator Maye Quade, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Kroon, I do want to thank you for your feedback in Judiciary. That was part of making sure we just got some more feedback on it too. So I appreciate your feedback both here and in the committee. So thank you again, Madam Chair, for agreeing to hear Senate File 3969. Members, the reason for this bill is terribly heartbreaking. There was a band teacher in my school district who used his position to groom and sexually assault many students, one of whom is sitting before you today. Gaps in our current laws delayed investigation, and this teacher ultimately went largely unpunished, not losing his teaching license or seeing prosecution. And Senate File 3969 really aims to fill those gaps. The bill creates a new crime, a crime of grooming, and then it adds in that crime of grooming to teacher licensure. It also requires the Department of Children, Youth, and Families to update their training module for mandatory reporters. And it clarifies that even if a student is over the age of 18, it is a crime for a teacher or a person in a position of authority in a school, because we do have children who go to school through 22. That would be a crime as well. And that it is a violation for a licensed educator to have that kind of contact with a student regardless of their age. There has been a tremendous amount of work that's happened across the country to add in crimes of grooming, describe what it is, and make sure that there are consequences for people who do this. A lot of stories have come to light that are also terribly heartbreaking, but I really want to thank Hannah and Detective Clausen here for working so closely with me on this bill. They have taken a tremendous amount of work to turn a story into a law. And I'm really, really grateful for their partnership, for going back over and over language that can seem really clinical for a story that's very, very personal. They are the beating heart behind this bill, and the reason why I'm so confident we will get this through both in the other body and in this chamber. And with that, Madam Chair, I will turn it over to my testifiers to tell their stories.
Thank you, Senator. Before we go to testifiers, Senator Sarah would like to say something.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I don't know if my question is for Senator Maye Quade or maybe Senator Kroon. I'm looking at the amendment here on line 1.1, the new definition. a person 18 years of age or older commits a felony offense or of grooming and may. So my question is the word may, is that common in statute, criminal offense, that they may be sentenced rather than shall or must?
I have just been informed, Senator Lucero and committee, that we have the wrong engrossment on the amendment. So it'll, excuse me, oops. Oh, the bill in the packet. Okay, the amendment is correct, but the engrossment is not the correct one. So we're going to get that printed out for you really quick. And then if you'd like to respond to that question, either Senator Maye Quade or Senator Kroon.
Senator Kunesh, Madam Chair, I think part of the answer to your question, Senator Lucero, is that sentencing guidelines take in a lot of different things, but I'll turn to Senator Kroon for more judiciary.
Thank you.
Senator Kroon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Lucero, I'll do my best to impersonate Ken Backus, Senate Counsel for the Judiciary Committee. Then I better be quiet then.
And we want to see.
I don't
we
know
want to see it all marked
definitively
up.
the answer to your question, but I think it's normal in terms because of the sentencing guidelines that are in play, but if you want a definitive answer, I'm probably not the right person to ask.
Madam Chair.
All right, Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if it is helpful, Senator Lucero, Mr. Backus did draft the amendment, so he had his expert eyes on it. I wasn't like, hey, you added may there. He used his expert analysis for this.
All right, I think we are ready to go. Go ahead. I'm sorry, we are on testifiers. Our first testifier is Hannah Lopresto, and then is this Chad Clausen that's at the, okay. Ms. Lopresto, if you'd like to state your name for the record, and you may begin.
My name is Hannah Lopresto. I'm a victim survivor of grooming and sexual assault by my high school band teacher when I was a student from 2012 to 2016 at Egan High School. Chair Kunesh and members, thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate File 3969. As a high schooler, I played percussion and had the same band teacher each year. Early on, this teacher made me feel special by asking me to help him organize music or move instruments after class. Over the course of the 4 years, he slowly began to isolate me from friends and family, normalize touching me and communicating as if we were close friends. On an international band trip to Greece, this escalated to him showing a romantic interest in me, manipulating seating charts so I was always next to him on the airplane, pulling me away from the group on tours, and slipping a secret note in my suitcase. Back at school, he used religion as a form of control, stating that God put me in his life for a reason and made me believe that I had to marry him because of the things I had done. On the morning of my last day of high school, he sexually assaulted me in the band lesson room. He put his hands down the back of my pants and the front of my shirt. I froze and I cried. That same day, he sent me a photograph of a handwritten note saying, "My love for you will always exist. It will last forever." I graduated the next day, and the sexual abuse continued into my early college years. Due to the years of grooming, I believed that I was an active participant in my abuse and that I had caused it to happen. I did not tell anyone the full story until Detective Chad Clausen from the Egan Police Department found me in 2022 during a separate investigation into this same teacher's misconduct on a band trip 6 years after mine. In tandem with the police investigation, there was also an MDE maltreatment investigation. But because my abuse had occurred over 3 years ago, I was never interviewed by MDE, and the evidence of my abuse was not considered. The consequence of this was great. While the police report concluded that there was probable cause that this teacher sexually assaulted me, a student, on school property, MDE did not determine that maltreatment occurred. This meant that Pelsby was not aware of this maltreatment, and this teacher still had a valid teaching license at the conclusion of both investigations. When MDE is not permitted to look back more than 3 years, our K-12 students pay the price of that. Often when I share that I was groomed and sexually assaulted, most people focus in on the sexual assaults as being the most horrific and impactful. But for me, the 5+ years of grooming were even more harmful to my long-term health and well-being. It was half a decade of psychological manipulation that harmed my understanding of healthy relationships, my own value, and my ability to trust others. Grooming is the creation of a false world made just for you. It lures you in by making you feel special, seen, understood, and then it preys on every vulnerability you have until you're trapped by shame. Shame wants you to hide, and hiding protects your abuser. It is crucial that MDE is able to look back further than 3 years because maltreatment, especially in the forms of grooming and other sexual abuse, can take years to surface. When evidence of this maltreatment does surface, no matter how much later, action must be taken to protect our K-12 students from future harm. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, and I know you've shared it many, many times, and it is always impactful. Every time I hear it, I really feel for what you went through, and I really do appreciate you coming forward and making sure that we all understand what a horrific action grooming is. And just thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Detective Chad Clausen.
My name is Chad Clausen. I'm a detective with the Eagan Police Department. Chair Kunesh and members, thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of Senate File 3969. I am the detective who investigated Hannah's case. Although there were no criminal charges, that outcome was not due to a lack of probable cause. It was due to gaps in laws in 2016 regarding positions of authority and high school students. Some of those gaps were addressed in 2021, but others remain, many of which are included in this bill. MDE investigations and grooming. Grooming is always intentional. One cannot accidentally groom a child. Grooming is the deliberate, slow process of building a false sense of trust with the child with intent of making future sexual abuse easier, regardless of whether any sexual violence occurs. Grooming a minor with the intent to sexually abuse them has already been established as a felony in 18 states. During the investigation, I observed a clear playbook used to groom multiple students. The volume and content of communication was alarming, with repeated phrases, themes, and tactics used to manipulate and control multiple students. Grooming follows a pattern that includes victim selection, gaining access in isolation, trust development, normalizing physical contact, and post-abuse maintenance. Hannah experienced each of these elements, and there were opportunities for intervention that did not occur. Grooming centers around manipulation and isolation. This forces the individual to have an emotional dependency on the perpetrator, which conditions the victim survivor to submit to or accept the harmful behavior. Delayed disclosure is common in grooming and child sexual abuse cases, and this was true with Hannah. I first interviewed Hannah in April of 2022, nearly 6 years after she graduated high school. Because of the 3-year limitation, Hannah was never interviewed by MDE investigators. Under current law, even a 3rd grader who discloses sexual abuse from their kindergarten years would be excluded from an MDE investigation. Preventing investigations solely based on time protects offenders, not students. In closing, a teacher cannot accidentally groom a student. It is not a one-time event. Grooming is a process committed over years and can take just as long or longer for survivors to disclose. Hannah endured over 5 years of grooming, a trauma that has deeply impacted her life, and still the perpetrator faced no consequences. When MDE cannot investigate incidents older than 3 years, this allows predators to remain in the classroom. These proposals are practical, preventative, and they're focused on child safety. They target predatory behavior, not educators. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Detective, and thank you for your perseverance and your determination to see this through. We appreciate that as well. Our last testifier is our Director of Government Relations at the Minnesota Department of Education, Adosh Uni, if you'd like to step up.
Good morning, Chair, members. My name is Adosh Uni. I'm the Director of Government Relations for the Minnesota Department of Education. And I appreciate the opportunity to provide comments on SF 3969 and appreciate the multiple opportunities to connect with the Senator on this incredibly important proposal. MDE shares this commitment to this proposal and strengthening protections for students and ensuring that schools remain safe, supportive environments for all children. This bill advances several goals that align with MDE's values, particularly by expanding tools to prevent grooming and sexual exploitation, improving reporting pathways, and reinforcing accountability measures for adults in the educational environment who violate students' trust. MDE appreciates the bill's clear intent to enhance student safety, close gaps in existing statutory protections, and support a coordinated system response when maltreatment is suspected. Much of the approach in this proposal is supported by national research, defining grooming as a reportable maltreatment concern and its role as a precursor to abuse. Training mandates, immediate response investigations, screening guidelines expansion, and separating of duties via supervisory instruction. Grooming is a predictable, detectable pattern that precedes sexual abuse, and traditional systems, or those originally designed to address other types of abuse, often miss it. This has contributed to underreporting of grooming, which is exacerbated by screening challenges due to the complexity of the fact patterns. This bill is welcome and timely, as given what is starting to emerge as a pattern of increased reports and what we are seeing in the cases. We fully agree that there is a need to address this form of recent growth in complaints here and nationally. National research is clear that given the complexities, adequate resourcing is necessary for maltreatment investigations because investigative systems fail when caseloads exceed staff capacity, when oversight is insufficient, and when screening bottlenecks delay investigative action. MD remains committed to fulfilling its role with rigor and integrity and believes successful implementation of new responsibilities for our school maltreatment program will require careful consideration of workload and appropriate resources to ensure that cases are handled compassionately and in a timely fashion to provide justice and avoid re-victimization. Overall, MDE supports the bill's underlying goals of improving student safety, expanding protections for vulnerable learners, and ensuring that grooming behaviors are recognized, reported, and addressed. MDE remains committed to investigating all allegations of student maltreatment with integrity, transparency, and a deep focus on student well-being. The department stands ready to work collaboratively to ensure the final legislation is both strong in its protections and effective in its administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Uni. All right, we will start with comments or questions. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first question, Senator Maye Quade. We were talking about the limitation of 3 years. In the bill, I'm not seeing that we're striking language. So is this just an MDE policy that we're addressing, or was this something that was in statute that we're addressing?
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Rarick. Thank you for that question. This is something that I had the same question about as well. If you look on 5.9 to 5.11, that is where we are saying that we must not limit the ability to screen and investigate alleged maltreatment. I think currently the commissioner is able to determine the length of time that they look into maltreatment. I think it has long been 3 years. And I believe the reason around that is because outside of 3 years, and maltreatment in statute is quite broad. And so, you know, if you're thinking of a maltreatment claim that's outside of, you know, criminal sexual conduct, it might be harder to get people with good memories or good evidence outside of 3 years, especially when you're talking about children. But we wanted to make sure that for this maltreatment reporting, that it's not screened out after 3 years or any length of time that may be determined in the future of how long they look at maltreatment claims.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess my concern is that we've put in here that, as you said, the language is saying you must look beyond 3 years, but what's going to stop the policy or something from stopping at 4 years when we specifically say 3? I guess I know this is probably maybe a little bit more for judiciary folks, but I'm just hoping that this language as written specifically saying looking beyond 3 isn't going to limit us again with potential policies that might be put in place. So, and I think is Mr. Uni maybe has a
Madam Chair, while Mr. Uni comes up, Senator Rarick, no, this is the exact committee where we would talk about this. It's not judiciary, it is the Department of Education. So you're bringing it up in the right place.
Mr. Uni?
Madam Chair, Senator Rarick, for the record again, Adosh Uni, Director of Government Relations for the Minnesota Department of Education. So the bill's impact does make it clear, as the line that Senator Maye Quade pointed out, for the added language around nothing in the statute prevents the department from looking back or allows the department to look more than 3 years. If you look up higher in that same statute that this amends in 260E, if you look in paragraphs 1 and 2, you have two sections that limit the ability of investigative authorities. If you look on 6.28, the report, if you look at 6.2, shall immediately investigate if the report alleges, and then it has the features of the situation. But if you look on 6.28, it says within 3 years preceding the report. So the way that we have administered the program is based on 3 years preceding the report. So this proposed language would modify that to open up that statute of limitations.
Senator Rarick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess I would like, maybe as we continue to talk about this, should that part of this be amended? That's what I was saying. I was not seeing any language being struck in this bill. And so the language that Mr. Uni just talked about, do we need to revise that as well instead of just saying you can go back beyond 3 years? Should we be revising that specific language as well so that there isn't a statute of limitations in place? So.
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Rarick, and thank you, Mr. Uni, for pointing me to the right place. Part of the breadth of this 3-year statute of limitations, it's not just for schools, it's also for childcare facilities, in-home daycares, and so I think we would be both opening up we would be opening up a statute that was put in place for a set of different reasons, and I'm open to that for sure. I just don't know them, so I would be hesitant to just make a decision right now. And then the second part is I imagine that the fiscal note would be higher than it's, I'm sure, going to be because it would be for everything else outside of just school.
Thank you. Follow-up?
Yeah, well, thank you. That's what I said. I by no means figure I know the answer to this one at this moment, but wanted to bring that up. My only other question is just, again, on the amendment that was adopted, and I think in a number of places, and this might be a judiciary question, but again, just for people to think about, we're talking about this is for people 18 years of age or older, and is it possible that we're actually having people, a 16-year-old grooming a 10-year-old, and are we limiting, and yeah, I see that maybe our detective could answer that if just law doesn't allow us to go under 18 with something like this, or why are we limiting it to 18 and above?
Detective Clausen?
Madam Chair, could you ask the question again, Senator? Sorry.
In the language that we're putting in here, we're saying that grooming can only be done by somebody 18 and above. And I'm wondering why is it possible a 16-year-old could groom a 10-year-old and we're keeping that out of the language? And I realize that wouldn't be for an educator that this committee is seeing, but we're also, beyond this, we're changing the language as well. And why are we putting that you have to be over 18 to be guilty of this?
Detective Clausen.
Madam Chair, Senator, one of the big reasons is because there needs to be this hierarchy of power, this power imbalance, and whether it's a position of authority or occupation, significant occupation as written in criminal statute. And there just isn't that power imbalance between a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old. That and then the core of this bill is based on Hannah's story and changing so that doesn't happen again, or at least if there's consequences if it happens again. So that would be my answer to that. I believe that there are other crime or other things in criminal code. If a 16-year-old did something to a 10-year-old, maybe it could have similar elements of grooming. Like the senator previously had asked, that it can be really challenging to charge these crimes because it isn't a clear-cut definition of grooming, and it takes a pattern, and that's where the totality of the circumstances come in. But I believe if it was someone under 18 that was doing that to someone younger, there are already crimes that would fall in under.
Follow-up? Thank you. Any, Senator Farnsworth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Maye Quade, for bringing this bill, and thank you for the amendment. Actually, this addresses, before we came in, my concern was, well, how do you define this? Like, what if there's a teacher that's just a warm, somebody that's warmer than I am, that develops closer relationships? I mean, how do we, make sure that those kind people that build those deep relationships don't get falsely accused? And so I appreciate this amendment to make sure that that doesn't happen. I do have a couple of questions on line 8.6 of the second engrossment that we have here. The person is more than 36 months older than the victim, and I'm just wondering why we have that, and I'll give a couple of examples that are unlikely, but I think are possible in a school. So you might have a PSA. In order to be a PSA, you really only need to have an Associate of Arts degree, and so potentially, you could graduate from high school with your AA, or maybe you could be 19 years old, working as a PSA in a school, and then, start grooming somebody that's less than that 36 months. Or I looked up like a police program that's about a 2-year program at the Hibbing College, and it's not likely that a brand new officer that graduates would become a school liaison officer, but I suppose that it's possible. And so you could have a 20-year-old that's the liaison officer that's less than 36 months with a victim. And so I'm just wondering, is there something significant about this 36 months, or would you be open to striking that line? Because I think it's possible that, small though it would be, could be a group of people that would kind of be missed under this.
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what we were, and thank you, Senator Farnsworth, for the question. There is, and I was just flipping through, I print out all the statutes that we cross-reference in my bills, and there are other, there's statutory references in 609.341 that aren't visually seen in this amendment, where we do have those like months brackets. It's 48 months or older, and some of this direct supervision or positions of authority. I think what we were thinking here is outside of 36 months, if you're 17 and somebody is like the assistant soccer, whatever, and they're 18 and a half, is that really inappropriate? I guess I'm open to if it needs to be more than 36 months, but in talking with Mr. Backus, we were trying to find what's the appropriate, what's an age gap that we could all say, well, that's appropriate. And above that, it's not. And recognizing that there are young people who are employed in schools or school districts where their position of authority is in title only and not real, if that makes sense what I'm saying. It's because of the age gap, there really isn't that much of a position of authority.
Follow up?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator. And I would say an 18-and-a-half-year-old assistant soccer coach trying to date a 17-year-old student is probably inappropriate. Not probably, it is inappropriate. I have to make sure that that's clear. But I guess I was thinking of offering an oral amendment to strike that line, but maybe just something to think about as this moves forward before it hits the floor, because I do think that there is a group that would be missed. And then my other question, line 8.12, the person is a licensed educator, employed or contracted to provide services for an elementary, middle, or secondary school. Why licensed educator? There's a lot of people that would fit this criteria that aren't licensed. And so again, I'm just wondering about maybe striking the words licensed educator and just somebody that's employed or contracted to provide services.
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Farnsworth. I'm going to take both of these and do really significant work to make sure that this reflects what we want it to do. And I think you have a good point, especially about licensed. I think, I don't know off the top of my head, so I'm not going to speculate. But if we are not capturing everyone we want to capture here, I'm more than open to striking licensed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Senator Holstrom. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm so sorry, man. Can you hold on for 1 second while I take that note?
Happily.
Thank you so much.
Do you know what the track is for this today?
Today, this is going to be held over for possible inclusion. Yeah,
Okay.
Good.
go ahead.
Senator Maye Quade, so with the changes in this specifically to grooming and the definition that is under the purview of judiciary, I just want to know if you had reached out to the chair of judiciary and if he was okay with all of this being laid over, or if we all know Chair Latz doesn't like to relinquish judiciary's purview, so he might want it back, and I just want to see if you had that conversation.
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Holmstrom, yes, I did. And yes, he's okay with this change without having to come back to judiciary.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, well, you sure? Okay. Thank you, Senator Maye Quade, for bringing this really, really important bill forward. I know Mr. Uni, Director Uni, mentioned something about it being welcome and timely, but it certainly is welcome, but it's long past time for us to have addressed this issue of grooming, not just in our school setting, but as you said, it extends into daycare and childcare and those sort of things. We know that grooming is certainly a serious offense, and there are many people that have gotten away with it, mostly because the legal framework that has not been there, and this really lays that framework for that. I think specifically around the definition and the terms that weren't there to guide the detectives or for those victims to go forward and say, you know, I've been offended, and somebody needs to stop this and stop this now. So thank you very much for bringing this to us today, and your willingness to continue to work on it, because we want to make sure that there's nothing left out of this bill that is going to let anybody get away with this action ever again. So thank you very much. Any other last questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I'll just say I really want to appreciate members of the Education Policy Committee, the Judiciary Committee, and now this committee for their really thoughtful feedback, for the bipartisan work to make this the best bill it can possibly be, and also Hannah and Detective Clausen, because this is a bill that we will see signed into law. And it's incredibly important for victim survivors who currently exist and for people who might be able to be not preyed upon, because we actually have real consequences for the adults who are out there purposefully grooming children. And I'm very, very, very proud to have worked alongside these two advocates to get this bill where it is.
All right, so just talking, we're still waiting on the fiscal note, and I think it was expected around the 6th, then we're still waiting for that fiscal note. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, and just for clarity's sake, so my author in the House is a Republican, and they have moved this to Ways and Means in anticipation of the fiscal note. It's a complex fiscal note because it involves DOC, MDE, and DCYF, so it's taken a little bit longer to put all the things together. And I know national research on what the national landscape has been is also going into what they're looking at MDE. I expect it very, very shortly, and it will not go to finance or be heard in finance without a very robust fiscal note, I'm sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So with that, Senate File 3969 as amended is laid over for possible
Madam
inclusion.
Chair, can we send it to finance?
Yeah, it's going to be a late bill, and that means it would have to go to rules. We can do that. Is that what you'd like
It's a good question.
as the author?
Well, yes. Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Vice Chair Gustafson.
All right. So with this joint decision, Senate File 3969 as amended will be sent to rules. Oh. We recommend this to be passed and sent to the Committee on Finance.
And I'll second into
and rules.
No, just committee.
Okay, help me out here.
You send it to the committee that it's supposed to go.
So we are recommending that Senate File 3969 as amended be recommended to pass and then referred to the Committee of Finance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that is the path for 3969. Thank you, Senator Maye Quade. Right, next, we're going to hear my bill real quick. 3620, nope. Yep, 3625.
All right, now we'll hear SF 3625. Senator Kunesh, welcome to your own committee. Today, the intention is to lay SF 3625 over for possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill. Senator Kunesh, would you like to move SF 3625 before the committee?
So moved.
All right, thank you. And we have an A8 amendment. If you would like to move and introduce the A8 amendment.
Sure. The A8 amendment is replacing Section 1, and that is to codify an existing rule relating to paraprofessionals. This is the rule that the rulemaking authority addresses. This route was recommended by the revisers instead of the cross-referencing the rule, and we know that MDE has limited rulemaking authority, so we will codify this as it has worked well for a long time. And then line 7.9 to 8.9 replaces sections 2 and 3, and that is to replace the literacy field work to ensure that clarity, that this is not a new requirement. This language matches the other body and is preferred by interested groups. And then the changes on lines 8.11 through 8.19 are just technical changes. And then the repealer is the rule that we are codifying.
All right, so now we need to adopt the amendment. Members, any questions? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of adopting the A8 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the amendment is adopted. And Senator Kunesh, to your bill.
Okay, so this is the agency, the Pellsby agency bill that we've all heard a bunch of different times, but we're finally on its last voyage. These are operational changes to increase effectiveness. It clarifies mental health renewal requirements and ensures it meets emerging student needs. It also allows teachers enrolled in out-of-state programs to obtain a Tier 2 license, and then it extends the timeline for IT project on teacher licensure system. And that's the bill.
Members, questions or comments? Oh, I'm so sorry. We have testifiers. Let's go to the testifiers. First up, Yelena Bailey. And if Caitlin Snyder could also come to the table, you are next on the list. Oh, Dr. Robertson. I'm sorry for the confusion. Yelena Bailey is online virtually, so we'll go to her first, and then we'll move on. If Ms. Bailey, if you could introduce yourself for the record and begin when you're ready.
Chair, members of the committee, thank you. My name is Dr. Elena Bailey, and I'm the Executive Director of Pellsby. I want to thank Senator Kunesh for authoring this bill, which she mentioned is largely operational, and just share a few things that this bill would accomplish. First, as mentioned earlier, this bill would address current and emerging student needs by updating the mental health training that our teachers receive as a part of the renewal process. Second, SF 3625 would remove barriers to licensure by allowing educators who are enrolled in an approved out-of-state program to be eligible for a Tier 2 license. This would address needs in border regions in particular or shortage areas. And then finally, this bill would improve Pellsby's operations in a couple of key ways. One, by moving the voluntary paraprofessional credential to MDE in alignment with their jurisdiction over non-licensed staff. It would allow Pellsby to enter into a data sharing agreement with BOSA to help with their licensure and with their ethics investigations. It would allow Pellsby to utilize forfeiture fees to cover IT costs for the creation and maintenance of our online teacher licensure system. And then finally, it would provide a 2-year extension on the funds that were granted to complete that online teacher licensure system so that we can continue to work with Minute on getting that third-party vendor to finish that project. That's a quick summary of the bill, and I'd be happy to help answer any questions later. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Ms. Caitlin Snyder, if you could introduce yourself for the record and begin when ready.
Madam Chair and members, my name is Caitlin Snyder, representing Education Minnesota and our 84,000 educators across the state, including the teachers in St. Francis who will be holding an informational picket on Monday evening. Speaking just to the budget items of this bill, we are happy to support the fund transfer that is contained for the IT funds. The move to online initial license and licensure renewal has been a very big deal for our members. Once upon a time, I was next door to the office for Pellsby, and teachers would come in trying to find where these big packets of all of the materials that they were submitting, and was this delivered on time, was this sent certified mail, and people would be in tears about the mail being lost or misplaced in transit. And so having this online is a very big deal. The other part of their IT system that I just want to give a shout out to is called the STAR report. So if you're ever looking for information about how many licensed school nurses are in your school, or what's the highest level of education, or what does compensation look like in your school, the amount of data that Pellsby is collecting is fantastic, and having that data system further built out is an asset to the state. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. I will share that Senator Seeberger and I both had to renew our license last year, and it was awful, so anything that we could do about that is great. Finally, Dr. Robertson, if you could introduce yourself and state your name for the record to begin when ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. I am Dr. Akilah Robertson, Policy Director at Education Evolving, an organization that promotes transformational, student-centered designs for learning. Thank you for this opportunity to testify in support of Senate File 3625. Two roads diverged in a yellow wooden eye. I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken illustrates the importance of an informed perspective in the decision-making process, role of corresponding action, and the need for commitment throughout the chartered course. Within the context of education, every decision and subsequent action must be in the best interest of those entrusted in your care. Certainly, this is the case for teachers, educators who work closely in service to our students. Senate File 3625 is a step in the right direction and moving decisions forward that support prepared, quality educators in our classrooms, consistently indicated in research as the most important factor in student achievement. We've done extensive research around teacher preparation, recruitment, and retention. This bill aligns with three common needs echoed across that research. The first being more opportunities for supervised field experiences where real-time application of learning is possible. These hands-on experiences reduce the gap between pre-service training and classroom reality, making teachers more effective from day one. Secondly, flexibility, as well as more clearly outlined parameters addressing licensure attainment and needs. And finally, more ongoing relevant training, such as a mental health component, helping to undergird the terrific responsibility of educating our current and future leaders, our students. SF 3625 is a move towards our teachers being more prepared and effective through the intentional decisions outlined in this bill, helping to make all the difference on the road that is less traveled nowadays, the teaching journey. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, members, any questions or comments? Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If Ms. Snyder could come back up, I just have a quick question.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Snyder.
I'll ask the question.
Sorry, Senator Lucero. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. You had mentioned something about St. Francis, and if you could repeat that part, I didn't get it.
Madam Chair, again, my name is Caitlin Snyder with Education Minnesota. I was sharing with the committee that St. Francis teachers will be doing an informational picket Monday evening before the school board to highlight difficulties negotiating healthcare costs in their most recent contract.
Got it. Thank you. The reason I was asking is I represent a portion of St. Francis School District, so thank you.
All right, members, any other questions or comments? All right, Senator Kunesh, any closing remarks?
Nope, just that we appreciate the effort to get this through, and hopefully we won't have any more stops on this bill.
All right, thank you. So with that, SF 3625 as amended is laid over for possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill.
All right, here we go. What we have been waiting all day for, all session for. The walkthrough of the governor's education finance proposal. And from what I understand, the commissioner, Willie Jett, is here to share with us, and Adosh Uni. If you'd like to take your seats. And while Mr. Rajab is getting things online, perhaps the commissioner would like to begin. Ta-da!
Good morning, Chair Kunesh and members of the committee. My name is Willie Jett, and I have the privilege of serving as the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Education. Thank you for the opportunity to share brief remarks on the Governor's 2026 Education Budget Bill. This bill includes key provisions to ensure safe, inclusive, and supportive learning environments where students have access to proactive, research-based supports. It prioritizes student safety by creating a framework to help educators and staff recognize signs of mental health distress and respond in trauma-informed, research-based ways. The Student Support Intervention Resource Model will be supported by the department through statewide expertise and technical assistance. As part of the governor's focus on program integrity and fraud prevention, and in alignment with the proposed statewide Office of Inspector General, the bill includes updates to the department's OIG. We appreciate the legislature's partnership in ensuring our staff have the statutory tools needed to advance our shared goal of strong oversight and accountability. The bill also re-examines the state's approach to student assessments by convening a task force to recommend improvements, providing a more comprehensive, timely, and instructionally useful picture of student achievement while reducing the burden of high-stakes testing. Paraprofessionals are among our most valued educators, yet they often lack consistent support. This proposal establishes a dedicated position to serve as a single point of contact, building a more coherent and sustainable system to strengthen practice and improve student outcomes. The bill also includes technical and best practice updates across several programs, including the attendance pilot, Compass, the READ Act, full-service community schools, and graduation incentives, ensuring the programs operate effectively and districts can fully utilize available resources. It also addresses the potential impact of the federal voucher program. Should a future administration opt in, this proposal directs funding to voluntary pre-kindergarten, protecting our youngest learners and supporting early academic success. And finally, I want to address changes to the Blue Ribbon Commission. The February forecast shows a continued structural imbalance in future years. To support a balanced statewide budget, the governor has proposed an additional $50 million reduction. This proposal is a starting point and underscores the importance of long-term fiscal balance. We are committed to partnering with the legislature and engaging in thoughtful discussions to achieve that goal. And so again, just want to say thank you, Chair Kunesh and members, for your time today, and we look forward to continued collaboration with the legislature. Director Uni.
Director Uni, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and you may begin.
Madam Chair, committee members, again, my name is Adosh Uni. I'm the Director of Government Relations for the Minnesota Department of Education. Thank you, Commissioner. This presentation discusses all the items that are contained in the governor's 2026 education budget, which are mostly no-cost, technical common sense provisions. There are some proposals that ask for a modest amount for important initiatives, and there are a couple notable provisions that the commissioner mentioned focused on prioritizing public education or the structural budget imbalance. Next slide, please. The governor's budget is targeted, and I will discuss the proposals in the following slides. But first, the recommendations propose an increase of $256,000 in fiscal 27 and $261,000 both in fiscal 28 and fiscal 29. These are largely contained in a student safety proposal and an effort to reimagine student assessments in Minnesota. You'll also see reductions of $25 million in both fiscal 28 and fiscal 29, and this is associated with an addition, as the commissioner mentioned to the Blue Ribbon Commission that was passed last year to focus on expenditures in the special education space. It is important to view the budget in the context of the most recent forecast. The current biennium is projected to end with a balance of $3.7 billion. Up $1.3 billion from November. In the next biennium in 2028-2029, the balance will be $377 million. However, there will be a structural imbalance. Statewide spending growth exceeds revenue growth, resulting in the structural deficit growing from $2.767 billion in fiscal 26-27 to a projected $3.357 billion in fiscal 28-29. This is just important context for the targeted budget as well as the proposal to address expenditures going forward with the Blue Ribbon Commission. Next slide, please. In sections 1 and 9 of Article 1, the governor is focusing on enhancing student and school safety, which is a core priority for this session. He's recommending that school districts and charter schools be required to establish a student support intervention and resource team, or SSIRT, that provides comprehensive school safety and student support programming designed to create safe, inclusive, and supportive learning environments through integrated prevention, intervention, and response strategies. These are teams that many LEAs currently already have. And the governor also recommends a statewide support system for this SSIRT model with $186,000 for a dedicated specialist at MDE to provide expertise and support technical implementation for LEAs around the state. Next slide, please. The governor recommends that if the state of Minnesota opts into a federal educational voucher program, and I will note the governor has already stated that he will not be opting into the program, but if a future administration does, non-public pupil aid and non-public pupil transportation aid would be repealed, and the savings from the repeal of these two aid programs would be redirected to the voluntary pre-kindergarten program. And this is an estimated $57 million in fiscal 27, $59 million in 28, and $61 million in '29. This would add an projected additional 7,000 seats to the voluntary pre-kindergarten program, and this would bring the total number of seats that we currently have up to 19,000 seats. Next slide, please. The next proposal is a basic skills repeal. This is a technical correction repealing references to basic skills and has compensatory aid and English learners be reported separately. There is a timeline correction to the attendance pilot appropriation. This was a program that was passed for, I believe, 13 LEAs, somewhere around there, back in 2024. MDE received a small portion for supporting the program, reporting out data, and providing technical assistance to the participants. This would allow MD to spend the attendance pilot appropriation on the same timeline as the pilot schools. This would ensure that we can fulfill our role of providing support for the program, as well as our data analysis and reporting responsibilities. Next slide, please. The MNMTSS, or Encompass language, is an update that's a technical change to provide clarity around which multi-tiered systems of support framework is the state systemic continuous improvement framework. This just simply replaces mentions of MTSS with MNMTSS. Next item is that a recommendation allowing the use of existing appropriations under our COMPASS team, which is the Collaborative Minnesota Partnerships to Advance Student Success, to include educational technology and artificial intelligence, or AI. This allows the COMPASS and MTSS to provide support to districts and charters related to educational technology and AI, with particular emphasis on leveraging AI for personalized learning, predictive analytics for early intervention, and data-driven decision-making. Final item on this slide is revising the date for Tier 3 coursework. This is a technical change extending the deadline by 1 year, which would allow for teacher preparation students to complete required Read-to-Act coursework and obtain a Tier 3 license upon the completion of their teacher preparation program. Next slide, please. First item is just codifying into state statute, statewide practice relating to site-based online instruction. Next item is a proposal regarding the full-service community school strategy grant program. This received a significant amount of funding in the 23 session. We've come, and advocates also have come over the years to add language to the program to make it catch up with national best practices and strategies, and this does a little bit of the same. It aligns the state policy with national frameworks to position the program as a strategy rather than as a fixed model or discrete program, and defines components to align with the best practices. We'd also asked to increase the allowable grant set aside, so currently we have 2% for set aside for administrative purposes. We'd be asking to bump it up to 5%. This would be to catch up with the significant increase in program participation over the last few years. Final proposal on this slide modifies the graduation incentives program statute. It would remove duplicative language and make the program more clearly aligned with the goals of state-approved alternative programs, which is to get back on track for academic achievement and for graduation. Next slide, please. Following proposal is a literacy incentive aid recommendation, which would revise statute to no longer use MCA proficiency data and growth rates as the formula for distribution, and instead use an English learner concentration factor and poverty concentration factor in the literacy aid formula. The intent of this recommendation is to increase student proficiency in reading by better directing literacy aid formula funding to schools and students with the highest need. The governor also recommends allowing remaining funds from reimbursing districts for the cost of one college entrance exam fee per student to be used by the department for the graduation requirements, record system updates, and maintenance. And this would allow any remaining funds, which is up to $800,000. It's not going to be that amount, but we're just showing what it could be up to for the system. The next proposal is a technical change eliminating elementary and secondary language that was changed during the last session, and this is related to the career and technical education student organizations. Next slide, please. This is a proposal that I had, the commissioner had mentioned, and I had mentioned. This is around reimagining assessments in Minnesota. We'd be looking at a task force that would convene over 2 years. They would evaluate the current assessment and accountability system and explore best practices from other states. They develop recommendations and an action plan for transforming assessments and accountability system services in the state of Minnesota. This would be around $70,000 in fiscal -- and then $150,000 in the next biennium. Following item is the repeal of the Innovation Research Zone. This was created years ago and it has not been utilized at all by districts. And then the next item is eliminating the testing disruptions database. It's publicly available on the website, but has not been used very often by districts to report testing disruptions. And this has been confusing for districts, so this would reduce the workload and would be coupled with simplification and clarification of guidance and reinforcing the use of existing more efficient supports there. The first item on this slide is the student support personnel formula proposal that would be modified so funds go directly to cooperative units who serve students using the same total entitlement, resulting in a revenue neutral distribution change. The recommendation establishes initial cooperative unit aid attributable to each member district of each eligible cooperative unit at the greater of $40,000 or the product of APU or adjusted pupil units of the member district. And this would be based on figures for fiscal year 24, fiscal year 25, or for fiscal year 26. The Educator Tuition Assistance Program is a technical change to ensure grantees have access to funds for the 4 years of availability established in statute. And the final item on this slide is a recommendation that would shift funds from the special revenue account for Grow Your Own new teacher programs to the special revenue account for the Special Education Teacher Pathway Program starting in fiscal 27. The SPED pathway is the only source of direct funding to address the special education teacher shortage and does not have sufficient funds to meet demands. The proposal would allow for additional funding to develop trained, licensed Tier 3 or Tier 4 special education teachers. Following slide are some technical revisions regarding the READ Act. It's just to provide clarity and consistency to aid in the implementation of the Act. There's one for amending references to screening for characteristics of reading disabilities to refer to reading difficulties, to refer to characteristics of dyslexia in the screening process. We're correcting references to the regional literacy network and clarifying relevant statutes to reflect requirements for teachers to meet all literacy goals as a whole, and then some statutory cleanup sections. Next slide, please. Next item in this article is modifying the gender-neutral restroom grant timeline. This change would allow the grants to be spent over 3 to 5 years. This would be necessary for these grants since they're capital improvement grants, and there generally needs to be a longer time period to be able to make those expenditures for those improvements. And then we change the reporting requirement to once per biennium. Next slide, please. This one is regarding the additions to the Blue Ribbon Commission. Reminder, the Blue Ribbon Commission was passed last session that would ask this commission of experts to look at special education expenditures and try to identify $250 million per biennium of reductions in special education expenditures. This is all under the umbrella of addressing the structural imbalance in the statewide budget. This recommendation includes increasing the BRC reduction target beginning in the 28-29 biennium by $50 million, so that would increase it from $250 million to $300 million. This would be added to their presentation to the legislature that would be coming up. This recommendation would be intended to strengthen the ability to address special education cost growth. The proposal also makes a clarification that any reductions from special education would not be able to be transferred to the general education. So there would have to be a straight reduction for expenditures for the state budget. Next slide. The following items are regarding additions to our MDE Office of Inspector General. The first, the governor recommends adds the OIG in the application of comprehensive law enforcement data requirements under statute. This would also clarify the OIG's data collection policies in order to maintain confidentiality and the preservation of evidence. Further clarifies that data on persons is confidential data, is confidential. Data is public when it's submitted to a court or when the investigation is no longer actively pursued, and the existence of an investigation or withholding payment may be disclosed if the commissioner and OIG don't believe it would compromise an investigation. The recommendation also makes all OIG data criminal investigative data and establishes that confidential data and creates limited exceptions for disclosure. Second item on this slide strengthens the OIG's ability to investigate fraud, enforce sanctions, access records quickly, and protect the identity of people who report concerns. It aligns MD's tools and protections with National Inspector General standards and the existing authority used by state agencies. And then on the next slide, the final bucket of the OIG proposals adds statutory language regarding record retention policies. The recommendation would provide consistent guidance on the maintenance of records related to external programs and individuals receiving funds from MDE. And the final proposal in the governor's budget this year is a budget neutral proposal to use existing funds allocated to support implementation of paraprofessional training to fund a paraprofessional specialist. This specialist would provide support and guidance on program implementation to the field and ensures statewide compliance. And Madam Chair, committee members, that will conclude the presentation of the governor's 2026 education budget, and I appreciate the opportunity to provide this overview.
Thank you, Mr. Oni, and thank you, Commissioner, for being here this morning. Any questions at this point? Senator Westland.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm sorry I missed most of your presentation, but I certainly came in at the part that is the most important to me, which has to do with the Blue Ribbon Commission. And as a member of that commission, I can tell you that we were all fairly unhappy to see not only that we were being asked to find additional cuts, but that we were being told that none of those cuts or changes could be shifted to other areas. And one thing I learned in this process is there is a program called ADSYS, which is designed specifically to provide intervention for kids who are at risk in order to prevent them from being moved on to special education. It is not a special education program, but it comes out of the special education budget. And it's my understanding that based on the proposals being made here, any suggestion that those funds should be shifted elsewhere would not comply with at least what the governor would like to have us do. I think finding $250 million in cuts is going to be challenging, and being asked to basically come up with another $50 million is going to be challenging. And I say this with all due respect, but I'm just not down with that.
Any response?
Chair, members, and thank you for the insight and the thoughts. Again, this is a starting point, okay? And the governor is opening the conversation to address the structural imbalance to the state budget, and we are here to engage in any way to ensure the statewide budget continues to be balanced. I'm not sure if our Assistant Commissioner, Darren Quade, is behind me. Darren, do you have anything to add to that?
Madam Chair, members, Darren Quade, Assistant Commissioner for the Office of Student Support Services at MDE. I also sit on the Blue Ribbon Commission. I'm the Commissioner's designee on that commission. I think that I've spent a lot of time as a member of the commission as well, trying to figure out how we're going to address this. And I think, in terms of the ADSYS piece, I just wanted to clarify, our interpretation of that language has been that, yes, we couldn't take a dollar for dollar of moving special education aid into general education aid spending under this language. But if there were changes that ended up with kind of other down the road, maybe not direct changes to other education formulas, I think that that's something that we, as a Blue Ribbon Commission, have discussed and will continue to discuss. So, as you know, we've talked about in the commission, you know, this is just a proposal right now, and we're going to continue to do our work. And if it passes, you know, we'll address that when the time comes.
Follow up, Senator.
Madam Chair, and thank you. I appreciate it. You know, I couldn't let the moment pass without saying something.
Any other comments or questions? Senator Swedzinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two questions and a comment. So on page 5, and thank you for putting numbers on the slide presentation, it says if a future administration opts into the federal voucher program, non-public aid and non-public transportation will be canceled. Can we do that? Because yesterday in committee, it was brought up that that was something that the court said we had to do. Can we do that?
Director Uni.
You don't have, I mean, I'm just curious as a quasi-legal person.
Madam Chair, Chair Swedzinski, you know, this is a proposal that the governor brought last session for, not related to the federal voucher program, but to eliminate non-public people aid and non-public people transportation aid to address the deficit that we were facing last year. It ultimately obviously didn't pass. I will have to go back and listen to the tape around the legal requirements around anything there, but I'm not aware of that, but we can go back and take a look at that. But that's not something that came up in our analysis.
Follow-up?
Thank you. Yeah, two more. And one more, I'm wondering if someone on your staff can just do this for me. I'd appreciate it. I constantly hear that in America, for every $50 we spend in education on STEM type classes, we spend 50 cents on civics education. And I'm just wondering if your budget proposal, if somehow someone, or if in the cloud this is possible for you to find out for me if that is an accurate statement for the state of Minnesota as well under the governor's proposal. Because and then I'll just add before it sounds like maybe the commissioner wants to address that, but I can't let my thing escape. As Senator Westland, she's got her thing she couldn't avoid saying. And for me, I'm also just curious how the governor's proposal is going to be celebrating the semi-quincentennial of the Declaration of Independence this summer, and if there's anything in this budget, or if the powers that be within your agency, if that's on their radar in order to promote that event so that July 4th doesn't happen, and all of a sudden everybody goes, how come in Minnesota we didn't really do anything about this event? And so I don't want that opportunity to pass us by when it's a wonderful opportunity to celebrate all the nonpartisan wonderful things that this country has done, and for the last 250 years and for the next 250 years as well. So with that said, thank you, members, and thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for coming in today, Commissioner.
Any comments or feedback from that?
So Chair Kunesh and members, and Senator Swedzinski, definitely we will make sure that someone from our staff gets back to you so that the couple questions that you asked. One of the things that, as I was sitting here, and this is just, Senator Westland said she couldn't miss this opportunity, and you said you couldn't miss this opportunity. And so I'm sitting here saying, and this is probably off script, but everybody kind of disappeared and had some food back there. And I was just paying attention to that because, you know, as someone out in the audience, and my stomach was rumbling. And so that was, I just wanted to get my shot out there in terms of saying that also. But in terms of us making sure that we respond, again, this is just one of those moments where we're having conversation. We'll have our staff get back to you, Senator Swedzinski.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next is Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm glad that we're on page 5 because there's something that I wanted to talk about on there, the use of the word voucher. These are not vouchers. I looked it up, the definition of a voucher, according to Merriam-Webster. A coupon issued by government to a parent or guardian to be issued to fund a child's education or in either a public or private school. There are no coupons. This isn't money that's going to a parent that's going to be used to fund an education. These are not vouchers. The use of the word voucher is misleading. I don't support vouchers. I've never supported vouchers. The tax credit I do support. And as I mentioned before the Easter break, the reason I support it is I think about the Hibbing School District that's cutting $2.1 million. If the Hibbing High School Foundation could take $1,700 donations from even 1,000 alum of the Hibbing School District, that would be almost $2 million that they could use for things like tutoring. And a bill we heard yesterday indicated that some of the Safe Schools money could be used for things to improve student attendance like tutoring. This is a way to pay for that. Now, I understand that some of this would go to private schools, and the governor seems to hate private schools. But this is also a way to get money to our public schools. It is a fully refundable tax credit. It is not a voucher. And I'm looking for any way I can to get some kind of help to my school district, the Hibbing School District that I work for. And this is one of the ways to do that. So I take issue with the word voucher because these aren't vouchers. And I just want to say the governor's proposal here to not give kids a ride to school, to get rid of this transportation aid, this is just mean-spirited. And I can tell you why. The kids that are riding the bus to private schools are not the rich kids. Those kids are getting dropped off by mom and dad. These are kids that are maybe on scholarship or kids that are going to a cheaper parochial school who don't have a ride to school. And so the governor is saying those kids, the kids with lower means, are the ones that don't get a ride to school. That is absurd. This is mean-spirited, and it has no place in any policy in the education in Minnesota.
Before we go any further, I just want to remind everybody about our code of conduct. And as the chair of this committee, I really don't find anything funny about it. I just want to remind you that we are all responsible for order, decorum, and quiet. We are responsible for enforcing respectful treatment of each other and the public. A senator should not use insulting or personally or socially offensive language when addressing members of the public or referring to them. And so I would like us all just to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Chair?
Senator Farnsworth.
Specifically, what did I say that was insulting?
Insulting the governor in that way and using the language was insulting.
Madam Chair, are you saying the word mean-spirited is insulting?
I'm not talking to you right now. Senator Gustafson.
Maye Quade.
Excuse me, Maye Quade.
But she might be on the list next, actually.
Yes. Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about, let me see what slide it is. Slide number 7, or page 31 in the bill. I'm looking specifically at the AI language update. You know, I find the consumer-facing rollout of AI to be particularly awful. It's a 5-alarm fire for society. I think tech in our schools has been bad for students. I think it's been bad for learning. And I think that doing more, particularly with AI, is when we have no idea what these companies are doing with our data, how they're surveilling students, the demonstrated harms that AI have caused to particularly young people. I don't know if we're at a place right now with AI and tech companies that we can leverage AI for personalized learning. Part of the thing is if something is free, we are the product. And right now, we can mostly access AI and particularly large language models for free because we are the product. And I would just not want to experiment on our young students with this technology the way it's been designed and deployed right now. And so I would not want to see this in statute, or if there is something more specific, maybe that the state has developed, or really strong guardrails around this, than putting more detail into the bill. Before I move on, maybe I'll let them respond to that.
Response from the commissioner, or?
Chair Kunesh, Senator Maye Quade, Sami Rajab, Assistant Director of Government Relations for the Department of Education. Senator Maye Quade, you make the point of no idea what these companies are doing, and we're hearing that from the field, and a lot of for-profit companies going to school districts and requesting to sell their product to schools. And right now, we want to put into statute, specifically under the Compass Division, that artificial intelligence guidelines and best practices is a place at the Department of Education as a resource under Compass, and that districts can go to the division to find those best practices and guidelines. You bring up the point of wanting to work on additional language or trying to tweak this language. We're always happy to have a conversation, as the commissioner referenced earlier, on the Blue Ribbon Commission and all provisions in this bill. This is a starting point, and so if there's interest in exploring that language a little more, we're always happy to engage in that.
Thank you, Mr. Rajab. Follow-up?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Rajab, for that. I would love to partner with you. I think right now, instead of, guidelines, and I think, using this data as a resource is great, but I would prefer to see a prohibition at this point. If we're going to allow AI into our state, it should be as a policy choice and not something that's happening because private tech companies with lots of money and lots of lobbyists and lots of salespeople can get to our school districts first. And so, but yeah, instead of like guidance and support, I would love to see a prohibition and then creating a framework and then allowing it in as a matter of policy. And I'd be happy to work with you on that. And then I did want to head on over to the OIG provisions, and I want to thank Mr. Uni and Deputy Commissioner for meeting yesterday. I brought this up in that meeting, and I'll just bring it up publicly here. I think there's some work to do on definitions, particularly around what excluded means. So I'm looking on page 54 of the bill, 54.13. Right now, the way that you have excluded defined is it means removed by any means from a program administered by a Minnesota state agency or federal agency. And there's lots of reasons people are excluded from programs. They make too much money, they're excluded from Medicaid, a computer glitch, and they're excluded by accident. And because we have removed by any means from any program administered by the state or a federal agency, it's a little broad. I get what you're trying to do with it, and I think that is good, but we should just be more specific about what we mean by excluded and then by which means or for what reasons.
Follow-up?
So, Madam Chair, members, and Senator Maye Quade, my only comment to that is thank you for meeting with our staff yesterday. We've been taking that behind closed doors and just having conversation about that. So we'll go ahead and make some adjustments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are done? Okay. Senator Gustafson.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So in also speaking on the Office of Inspector General here, and I was able to meet with your staff yesterday too, which I appreciate your time. I felt like I had a choice yesterday when we met that I could either go through and mark up all of the things that I either had concerns or questions about or wanted to change, or I could just simply bring the idea that I brought to you. It is our intention for an independent statewide Office of Inspector General. It's the Senate position. Every senator at this table voted for it, except for Senator Holmstrom, who just wasn't here at the time, but probably would have. And part of that is the independence, so that they don't report directly to the commissioner. These people would report to an independent statewide Office of Inspector General. So I guess all of the, there are a lot of things that I would like to bring up and point your attention to, but mostly I would just like to say that it is, something that we have all been working on for a couple of years. I'll thank Senator Cruen for being an active co-author with me on this bill. And we spent a lot of time working on it. We really do think it is the most accountable and responsible way forward when addressing and preventing fraud. And so my advice or my recommendation, suggestion, however you want to take it, would be that instead of adding additional language to this particular office, I would consider drafting amendments to a statewide Office of Inspector General about how they would handle situations that are specific to education. Knowing that, and I don't know if I even brave to say it in this political climate, but I have high hopes it'll pass. And if it does, I would rather have your voice be a part of what that would look like in an independent statewide office versus spend a lot of time going through the language that we see here. So take that as you will, but it is really, really important to us that we have an independent oversight authority where these people do not report to an internal commissioner, but instead to an independent office that can monitor multiple agencies and can do it without any sort of political lens. So that is what I'd like to, not necessarily a question, but more of a homework assignment in the light of an education committee. But really just think in terms of, we intend for that to pass. Anything that you think needs to be represented in that bill that would help that office with education concerns should be maybe brought to us as drafted amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We are going to move on to public testimony, and if Josh Downham would come to the table, Caitlin Snyder and Scott Kroonquist would come to the table, and then we only have about less than 30 minutes left. So the rest of the testifiers, if you'd like to get ready to come up, Heidi Nisler, Ann Weiss, Matt Shaver, and Marcus Penny after that. Mr. Downham, if you'd like to begin.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Josh Downham, Minneapolis Schools, and I want to thank Ms. Zellmer for going in the order of importance in testimonies today. I know Ms. Snyder and I appreciate that. I just want to first thank the governor and his team for the past 7 years and their focus on education. While I do have concerns about some of the things in this supplemental budget recommendation, their openness and availability has been amazing. So thank you to them. First aspect of the governor's budget recommendation I'd like to touch on is the change or proposed change to literacy aid. And while I know my colleague, Mr. Kroonquist, will touch on the distributional changes that are part of that, I think one of them, and we would prefer more resources go in so there aren't winners and losers. But one of the aspects of that proposal is to remove a flawed measure. And as you all know, the federal government requires the state to allow families to opt out of state testing. And when a family opts their child out, that child is considered non-proficient. And that reflects both on the scores for the school, but it also actually reduces literacy aid for that school. So the governor's proposal would remove that flawed measure, and we think whether it's this particular proposal or a different way of doing it, that's a move in the right direction. We do have a real serious concern with the additional cut to special education aid. And Senator Westland, I thought, spoke very eloquently to this. Finding $250 million in cuts, when those services are absolutely needed, if you reduce special education aid, you're not reducing the needs of students. It's simply shifting more of the cost onto property taxes through our local levies or taking more resources out of the general education classroom. For Minneapolis Public Schools, we receive over $35 million annually in tuition bills from charter schools and other districts. And these are students who are not Minneapolis students. They actually are residents but attend other schools. We still pay a significant chunk of dollars for their education at their schools, and we receive no funding from the state or federal government for those students. By reducing cross-subsidy reduction aid, Minneapolis schools will shoulder a greater share of the cost of those tuition bills. because cross-subsidy reduction aid is the fourth component in the special education funding formula. So for Minneapolis, it's a significant increase in that cost, and we would strongly recommend that this committee reject the $50 million increase in that cut and actually roll back the $250 million increase. So, Madam Chair, I appreciate the time.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Downham. Next is Caitlin Snyder.
Madam Chair and members, my name is Caitlin Snyder, representing Education Minnesota. There are a couple of pieces of the governor's budget that we are intrigued by, including the change to have a professional to administer paraprofessional needs at the department, more professionals to administer the full service community schools grant. But in the interest of time, we're going to talk about just two pieces today. First, we appreciate that the governor has opted out of the school, of the scholarship grant organization program that is part of H.R. 1, President Trump's big, beautiful bill. And I think it's appropriate that we're talking about it today as part of the agency budget, because the way that that bill works is that the federal government has outsourced all of the accountability of the program to your local Department of Education. The Minnesota Department of Education is not the nonprofit police. They cannot tell whether or not an organization is good or bad or indifferent. But the way that it works is they would be responsible for listing and vetting all of the organizations in Minnesota that would qualify under that federal program, and then thus be accountable if there were fraud found. And that's not an appropriate use of our Department of Education. And for that and for many other reasons, we appreciate that inclusion here today. But I want to talk about the biggest topic for us, which is, as Senator Westland said, as Mr. Downham said, the changes to the Blue Ribbon Commission on Special Education. Just like doctors catch more diseases today than they did before, our educators have more advanced special education screenings, and they're catching more of our kids' needs than before. This is partly because of the READ Act. It's partly because the technology has gotten better. But it's a good thing to have early identification of special education needs, and early intervention costs more money on the front end. The other thing about the increase in special education costs is that part of the cost for special education is the increased cost of healthcare for our educators. And that's why I made a point to bring up St. Francis today, because St. Francis, like Anoka Hennepin, like many other locals, is really struggling to keep up with the cost of healthcare, and that is baked into the special education formula. So it's not surprising, it's not malfeasance that the special education formula is increasing every year. It's part of both the needs of our students and the costs that are being passed on to our schools from the healthcare industry. So we are very concerned about the changes that the governor recommends to the Blue Ribbon Commission, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Next, we have Scott Kroonquist, and if Heidi Nisler and Ann Weiss would come to the table, and Matt Shaver, if you want to prepare yourself to take Mr. Kroonquist's seat, that'd be great. You may begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Scott Kroonquist with the Association of Metropolitan School Districts, and today I'm also speaking on behalf of the Minnesota School Boards Association, Minnesota Association of School Administrators, and the Minnesota Association of School Business Officials, and I appreciate the opportunity to make a few brief comments. I'll start off with an item we support, and that is the governor's proposal to establish a task force on testing and assessment. I think you all know there's broad agreement among students, families, and educators that Minnesota really needs to move toward a more balanced, student-centered system of assessment. We think a task force can evaluate options, including looking at the possibilities for a federal waiver for a local assessment, and also look at what other states are doing. We encourage an accelerated timeline, however, so that recommendations, or at least an interim report, could be available even next legislative session. And of course, then I also have to jump on the bandwagon and express our opposition to the contingent reduction, the increase of $50 million in the contingent reduction on cross-subsidy aid, which would be on top of last year's $250 million cut. Our organizations actually support repealing, not expanding that cut. Our districts are already facing significant financial pressure. In fact, our AMSD members are projecting a combined $223 million shortfall for next school year under current law. And the simple reality is that special education costs are driven by federal and state mandates and by our students' individual education plans. Now is not the time to retreat from the progress made in 2023 when significant investments were approved to reduce the cross-subsidy. Let's let the Blue Ribbon Commission go forward and allow them to complete their work in a thoughtful manner, bring forward recommendations in 2027 without a contingent $250 or $300 million cut to cross-subsidy aid hanging over their heads. Second, we are concerned about the reallocation of the existing literacy aid. While we are certainly open to reviewing the formula, and Mr. Downham, we thought, brought forward some legitimate concerns, we are in a time where there are widespread budget challenges. And if we're going to redistribute the formula, then the dollars associated with that formula, some districts will experience a cut. And we just simply cannot afford that right now. On top of that, all of our districts are working hard to implement the READ Act, and they all need stable, adequate resources to do that. Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
Thank you so much for joining us here today, Mr. Cronquist. Next, we have Ms. Nestler.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Education Finance Committee. My name is Heidi Nistler. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Specialized Services for St. Paul Public Schools. I'm also here on behalf of the Minnesota Administrators for Special Education, and I also sit in front of you as a parent of 2 children who have received special education services through our local public school. I am here today to testify in regards to the governor's proposed budget recommendations, specifically my deep concerns about the additional proposed cuts to special education funding. Last session, a $250 million cut was set for special education. This year, we are discussing an additional $50 million cut. In St. Paul Public Schools, we serve almost 7,000 students with disabilities, and our current cross-subsidy is over $30 million. That is $30 million that we must pull from our general education fund every year to cover the gap between the cost of providing legally mandated services to children with disabilities and the state and federal special education funding that we receive. By adding another $50 million to a statewide cut that was already built on a non-existent pathway, the state is moving further away from its commitment to our students. Under state and federal law, decisions about what services a student needs are made by IEP teams. It is parents, special education teachers, service providers sitting together to make a decision about what a student needs. Even though I build my district's special education budget, the law does not give me the authority to unilaterally make decisions about what students need. Those decisions are made by teams who are not taking into account the reimbursement, and they can't. The reality is that these costs are driven by factors beyond our control, and every dollar that goes unreimbursed does not simply disappear. It is withdrawn from the district general education funds. This proposed $50 million cut would not be a cut to special education. This would be a cut to general education programming that serves all students. This would result in more cuts, such as the resources for literacy. We could have larger class sizes, cuts to elective programs, and other student supports. When the state adds an additional $50 million cut to an already impossible $250 million target, it is going backwards and continues to require general education funding to subsidize a state and federal mandate that we cannot control. I urge this committee to refuse the governor's proposed reductions and instead focus on ensuring our schools are able to meet the needs of all students, including students with disabilities. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nestler. Next, we'll hear from Ms. Wise.
Good morning, Chair Kunesh and members of the committee. My name is Ann Weiss, Executive Director of the Minnesota Association of Independent Schools, representing 17 schools and over 10,000 students and families across our state. I am here today to strongly oppose Governor Walz's proposed elimination of non-public pupil aid. Minnesota has a longstanding bipartisan commitment to supporting all students, regardless of where they attend school. We have heard as recently as yesterday in this committee and throughout this past year that all students are Minnesota students. For decades, non-public pupil aid has ensured equitable access to essential services such as textbook, transportation, nursing, and counseling. These dollars follow the student and provide critical services that support their ability to learn, stay healthy, and succeed. The loss of this aid could have immediate and far-reaching consequences. Students rely on this funding for access to textbooks and instructional materials, costs that would be passed on to families through increased tuition and fees. Schools may also be forced to reduce critical services such as counseling and nursing. We have learned through testimony this year that school counselors are sometimes the only access a student has to mental health support. We also believe that mental health services are a critical component of school safety, helping schools identify students' needs early and address concerns before they escalate. Reducing these supports could weaken the safe and stable learning environments that all students need to succeed. These cuts could also impact public schools. Groves Academy, part of our association, for example, serves students who transfer to Groves from public school districts and provides comprehensive evaluations and targeted support that help students then successfully transition back into the public school district. This work involves deep coordination with districts and significant time and expertise. Each year, Groves partners with 36 public school districts and charter schools across Minnesota, providing these services that would otherwise require significant time and resources on the part of public school districts. Independent schools are a vital part of Minnesota's education ecosystem. This investment, which is a small percentage of the education budget, delivers an outsized return for students, some of who return to public school for high school. We urge you to maintain this critical funding and uphold Minnesota's commitment to all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weiss. Next, we're going to hear from Matt Shaver, and if Marcus Penny would join us as well. Go ahead.
Chair Kunesh, members of the committee, good morning. Matt Shaver, Policy Director at EdAllies. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment on some of the governor's budget proposals today. Two things to highlight. First, we are strongly opposed to increasing the Blue Ribbon Commission's charge to cut special education funding to $300 million. Our system of special education funding formulas is really this Rube Goldberg machine of Band-Aids on top of Band-Aids. And it is good and right to bring together a group of expert stakeholders, as the Commission has done, to take a thorough look at ways to modernize and streamline that system to better serve students with disabilities. The harm has always been in forcing them to do that work with a $250 million anvil hanging over their head. Adding another $50 million to that burden would only bring more uncertainty to district budgets and student experiences. And we urge this committee to reject that proposal. Second, we support the governor's proposal to reform literacy aid, similar to Senator Maye Quade's bill this committee heard way back in March. And as a reminder, distributing ongoing funding to implement the READ Act based on student enrollment and student demographics is more predictable, fair, and similar to how other READ Act dollars have been distributed than how literacy incentive aid has worked over time. Sending dollars to support READ Act implementation based on third grade test scores and fourth grade growth is far too late and too focused on students already at grade level to effectively target the dollars to meet the goals of the READ Act to ensure all students are reading on grade level. One thing we didn't discuss much during the hearing is that starting this month, 400,000 Minnesota students will be taking a new reading MCA based on new ELA standards. As we all know, the majority of literacy aid dollars go to schools based on fourth grade growth. The 30,000 or so fourth graders taking the new reading MCA based on these new reading standards this month means fourth grade growth will no longer be possible to calculate. In fact, our Department of Education is sending in an ESSA waiver to the Federal Department of Education in order to not use reading growth in our accountability system because of this new reading MCA. Here's what MDE's waiver says, quote, both the previous and new versions of Minnesota statewide reading tests sort student achievement into categories based on their performance on these assessments. The MCA 3 used 4 achievement levels, does not meet standards, partially meets, and exceeds. The MCA 4 will use 4 performance levels, beginning, intermediate, meets, and advance. While each generation of tests uses 4 levels, the tests themselves measure different standards and the levels are determined independently of each other. Performance levels for the MCA 4 cannot be meaningfully compared to achievement levels for the MCA 3. So if our own Department of Education won't be able to calculate reading growth, how can our legislature expect tens of millions of dollars to go out to schools in a fair way based on reading growth? This is one of many reasons why we support this no-cost change to the way literacy aid works. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and thank you all for your public service to our state.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shaver. And next, Mr. Penny.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Marcus Penny, Communications Director at Education Evolving. We are advocates for more student-centered learning here in Minnesota. And thank you for the opportunity to speak on the governor's proposal. And I know we're up against it, so I won't repeat the same feedback you've heard from other testifiers, except to say that Education Evolving firmly agrees with the broader sentiments already shared by folks. I want to drill down on Article 2, Section 20, establishing a task force on Minnesota testing and assessments. I know you're all chomping at the bit to greenlight another task force. And on something as beloved as assessments like the MCA, it's a hootenanny. But rethinking assessments is an important conversation. Assessments matter. They express our educational values. What gets measured gets done. Assessments serve as a crucial check on our state education system, though Minnesota's could certainly be more helpful. They influence decision-making, and they're required under federal law. The governor's initial recommendation made the intent of the task force clear. Propose reforms to provide a more comprehensive, timely, and useful picture of student achievement while reducing burdens on students, educators, and families. Those priorities align with Education Evolving's assessment recommendations. In our work on this issue, we have spoken extensively with students, parents, educators, and others, as the task force would similarly be charged to do. They urge us to imagine statewide assessments that center youth in design and development, include different ways of speaking, writing, and knowing, capture growth, especially for those who need more support, are more focused and aligned with learning science, that value deep applied skills necessary for true college and career readiness, especially in high school, and provide occasions for celebration and stepping stones to what's next. We trust a task force would hear the same. Education Evolving is thankful for this conversation and eager to support any task force or lawmaker ready to imagine more equitable student-centered assessments in Minnesota. We've got ideas. We're also aware of the political reality. This is the proposal of a lame duck governor, but we hope the fire around rethinking assessments stays lit. Wishful thinking maybe, but for a pessimist, I'm pretty optimistic. Thank you, Chair Kunesh and committee members.
Thank you so much, Mr. Penny. And with all this talk of the MCAs, it just reminded me that we are in that, I want to say almost dreaded testing season in our schools. It's the end of the school year. We've had a pretty traumatic school year, and now we have to put our kids through MCAs. Often the schools are taking MAP tests. Our EL kids are taking other tests. It's pretty tough. And as the testing coordinator for about 15 years in my school district, I remember exactly what that's like. And so I just want to send a good word out to our students that we're thinking about them, that we're hoping for the best. Do your best if you can. Thank you to all the staff members that try to create an environment and a support system that is hopefully going to bring out the best outcome for those students. And that data that comes from that is really, really important. You know, it's like it was said, we try to take that information and create support systems and resources that are going to help those students that obviously are struggling the most. And so I just want to send that out into the world that we're thinking of you, we're sending you best wishes. I hope that those that are taking the test have a successful one, and those that opt out of it are able to, that we're able to change that so that isn't counted against the school. Just want to put that out there. Senator Swedzinski wanted to make a comment.
I just want to thank you, Madam Chair. As Chair of Ed Policy and a member of Ed Finance, I just want to thank Commissioner Jett and your staff for the last few months of civil and respectful conversations between the executive and legislative branches, and we owe you a debt of gratitude for your service. And the staff behind me pointed out that only an educator would know that we were passing donuts in the back of the classroom. So, you're not missing anything, because I'm tired of the whole mess. So,
Thank you, Senator Swedzinski. Next, Senator Burke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are three parts to this bill that I want to touch on. First one in relation to the Office of Inspector General. I think Senator Gustafson started down this line, and I agree with her 100%. The position needs to be outside of the office. And all we need to look to is when the position was first created, the individual who was brought in to fill that position was incredibly qualified and someone I think we all would appreciate having in that role. They were then promptly reassigned somewhere else. The person who was brought in to fill that role was vastly underqualified in comparison. And that's the person who's now been permanently assigned and who is responsible to the commissioner. And now we think we're going to give them some increased responsibilities and that's going to solve fraud problems. We're kidding ourselves. The real solution is a separate inspector general who doesn't answer to commissioners. Next, many people brought this up, the special education cuts. Members, the broader problem here comes from both the state and the federal levels. We continue to tell schools what they must do without the funding to follow. And until we're willing to admit that we want to put things in place, but if we cannot fund it, we need to give these school boards the ability to opt out. They might have to make some tough decisions and work with their families. But I think they have that right to be able to determine what can we afford to provide to our families and what are we unable to provide, and make that decision within their own communities. Demanding that they provide certain services at the cost of other services, as we've heard from so many, just that is unsustainable. And lastly, just it's a continued assault on the children and the families who choose a different route to go to a non-public school. I was really hopeful that last year the message was sent that that's just not the right way to go. And we've heard, again, yesterday, when we talked about school safety, some of these services are supposed to be for all students in Minnesota. And here we go again, wanting to remove some of these services that are for the children, not for the school. But we continue this assault, and it is just wrong. And Madam Chair, members, because of these three things that are in this bill, there is nothing in this proposal that I can even begin to take seriously.
Thank you, Senator Rarick. Senator Westland.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I know we're bumping up against time. I want to thank Commissioner and staff for coming today to present to us, and much has been said about special education, and just I think piggybacking on a little bit of what Senator Rarick said, every student under IDEA, including our students with disabilities, is entitled to a free and appropriate public education. And what came with that passage of federal law was a promise on the part of the federal government that they were going to fund 40% of that. And they have consistently funded maybe 10 to 13%. This is not just a problem on the state level. This is a problem with the federal government not abiding by their obligation to our students with disabilities. And frankly, if they funded what they were supposed to be funding, we probably wouldn't be talking about having to make cuts. There's only so much we can do. We can nibble around the edges, and I know Senator Farnsworth has talked about the paperwork. There may be things that we can do to make the process more efficient, but the idea that we are going to find efficiencies that are going to make up a $250 and now $300 million deficit is just probably not realistic. But I think it is unfair to just put this on the state, because the federal government has failed every single year. They have never met their obligation. And we do have an obligation to our kids with disabilities. They have the right. It's a due process and equal protection right for them to obtain a free and appropriate public education. That is what our duty is. That is what our obligation is. And I would call on our federal government that they should start meeting their responsibilities to our students.
Thank you, Senator Westland. And lastly, we have Senator Maye Quade.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm standing between everybody and getting out of here, so I'll try to make it brief. And, you know, I want to thank Mr. Downham for coming and talking about the READ Act and maybe a provision in the governor's budget that is more helpful or better. I'm always open to that feedback, and I think we can definitely look at taking that in. I want to thank the commissioner and the staff for their hard work and their partnership on this bill and throughout this session. But I do, you know, just picking up on this, the tone and tenor of special education cuts, I mean, 250 million was like wild to me, and to add 50 million more would be so damaging and so dangerous. And one thing, you know, I sit on the Human Services Committee, and I might be the only member of Ed Finance that also sits on Human Services. So it's the two largest parts of the budget of the Minnesota government. And part of the reason we are seeing our special education costs increase and in human services is because people with disabilities are living longer. We have more kids that are surviving infancy to go to school. And we have more kids or more people who are surviving, you know, teenage years to live to be older adults to need and be able to receive supports. And so I just want to push back on this frame that like a growth in a budget reflects something bad. For me, when I see special education costs rising, I see more kids who are alive to receive them. And they do deserve a free and appropriate education, public education. And that means that we have to do different things. And that is okay, but we have a terrible history in this country and around the world of hiding people with disabilities away in institutions, away from the public, and treating them terribly. And cutting special education is scary to me because it feels like we're going back down that road. The federal government absolutely needs to do its part. The last thing I'll say is that we have a duty as a legislature to fund and regulate public schools. That is our job. It is not a reflection of our feeling about private schools or people or students who go to private schools. It is not our job to. That is it, period. And so we have to make sure that we are keeping in our duty as legislators and as state government officials when we fund things, and we do need to fund our public schools. That is our duty. Not first and foremost, just period. And I think that we need to be reminded of that on a regular basis because it turns into a quasi-debate of how about people feel about private schools. It's not about feelings, it's about what our job is, Madam Chair. And I really want us to make sure that we are focused on what our job is to do. So thank you so much for letting me go on and past 10:30, but I really needed to say that.
Must have been fueled by that donut, I think. Members, so this concludes our discussion here today. Just to let you know, we will have hearings next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. There's just a few bills on Tuesday, walkthrough of the omnibus bill and take public testimony. That's on Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll have a markup on that omnibus bill. So with that, we are adjourned.